So today, as we see the title, I'm going to talk about biostimulants. Is how we are going to build capacity for bigger potential of this crop biologics in organic vegetable production systems. So as Lucy introduced, I'm a vegetable crops and irrigation farm advisor at the UC Cooperative Extension. I'm based in Stanislaus County, the city of Modesto. Okay, so first of all, to understand how we can better use crop biostimulants, we need to know what are the growers' most concerned issues when working with biostimulants. So this is a survey I did in 2020 in order to understand the current use, concerned issues, and hopes regarding biostimulants among California vegetable growers. There were 74 vegetable growers' responses, including 10 and 37 of them who claimed that they farm organically only, or they farm as a mix of both organic and conventional practices. And their farming acreage ranged from less than 100 to over 500 acres. And as you can see on the left, the biggest concern that puzzles the growers is how to select a biostimulant product. Then the followings, which also received quite a lot of responses, relate to product use or application and efficacy evaluation, well, especially in terms of the return on investment. Meanwhile, for my years of experience working on biostimulants, a plethora of questions or complaints came to my ears from growers, such as, is biostimulant a type of fertilizer? Or if it's not, then how can we categorize that? Or the question is how we can use biostimulants in my vegetable or crop production system. And also relates to which product should I choose from a large pool of production, or even just the two products, which one is better? And then like questions like, I applied biostimulants, but there's no effect, then what's the reason? And also people ask like, will biostimulant help with disease prevention? And later there'll be questions coming like, what are the general functions of biostimulant? Can we use biostimulant as a replacement of fertilizer or something else? So from all those questions in the past, today's talk will mainly focus on some keynotes or strategies, if you will, on biostimulant selection, application, and evaluation in organic systems. And I know this talk cannot solve all the questions, but I hope that this talk will help you reduce your guesswork and find a solution in the future more quickly, easily, and maybe more confidently. Okay, first of all, I really want you to keep in mind that regardless of organic or conventional that you follow, biostimulant is different from biopesticide or other biocontrol agents, which Lucy mentioned that there's be a talk about this biocontrol agents next week, because biostimulant has its own recipe in terms of abbreviation or definition, or even the modes of action of those biologics. The reason I'm emphasizing this is because, I met a lot of people who often unintentionally confuse biostimulants with pesticide or other biocontrol substances. Okay, let's have a quick look at the biostimulant definition from the 2018 US Farm Bill. You may have a better idea of the difference from biocontrol substances. So biostimulant is a substance or microorganism that when applied to seeds, plants, or the root zone, stimulates natural processes to enhance or benefit nutrient uptake, nutrient efficiency, tolerance to abiotic stress, or crop quality and yield. So now you can feel that there is something different from the biocontrol substances that we may use in the past. Also, from another angle, you can also see where biostimulant fits in this chart of major input categories organized by functions and compositions. So here, please note for the biofertilizer and the biostimulants, these two categories are kind of overlapping in some of their compositions and functions. So biostimulants may contain ingredients falling in the biofertilizer domain, while biofertilizer may also include some stimulatory effects on plants' growth and development. Overall, by the active ingredients the product contains, biostimulants can be categorized into microbial biostimulants and other biostimulants that contain non-living microorganisms. So within microbial biostimulants, we can further categorize them by the microorganisms they contain, including bacteria or fungi, or a mix of both of bacteria and fungi. For other biostimulants, they're quite broad in types and numbers, which I'm going to mention in the later slide. And overall, the main function of biostimulants are to regulate plant growth and enhance tolerance to abiotic stress. And biostimulants also have the biofertilization role as an improvement of nutrient acquisition, for example, nitrogen, which we're also going to mention this in the later slides. Okay, to better use crop biostimulants, you need to first know your purpose. What are you trying to accomplish by the use of biostimulants? It closely hinges on how biostimulants work or the modes of action. So the biostimulants, as we mentioned earlier in the previous slide, it could increase nutrient availability. It could trigger or help produce with the plant hormone biosynthesis pathway. It will also limit plant stress, especially abiotic stress. Also, biostimulant will help with extending the root system for further rich of the soil nutrients and water resources. Lastly, biostimulant also has an indirect role as to induce the resistance of plant defense system, serving as a pathogen suppressive role in the plants. But here I have to say that effective use of biostimulants in vegetable system, especially in organic vegetable system, is challenging because of the abundance of vegetable species and the OMRI listed commercialized biostimulants on the market. For example, we know that there are about 9 families of vegetables, all the way from arugula down to zucchini. And all of them will have a different marketable or harvest portion. And some of the vegetable species will be harvested only one time, while others may be subjected for multiple picks. Those vegetables could be produced in the open field system, or they can be produced in a semi-protected infrastructure, where we call it a hoop house or high tunnels. For biostimulants, they could be, those vegetable species, they could be directly seeded like arugula or lettuce. They can also be transplanted like tomato. And as we know that most of the most of the vegetables are the high value crops, which means the failure due to the misselection of biostimulants could be costly. And on the other hand, this OMRI listed label will prevent a lot of other products from being used in organic system, but we still have hundreds of products on the market that could be used under organic production system. They could include the products containing microbes, humic substances, seaweed extract, protein hydrolysis, and plant hormones. So now let's begin with a good selection of biostimulants. Again, number one is your purpose really matters, because you got to find a product that matches your goal. For example, if you're trying to use biostimulant to increase your nutrient acquisition, for example, nitrogen, if you go to the market, you might be able to find a biostimulant containing nitrogen fixation bacteria, which can help fix the nitrogen in the soil. And that way the plant will have more access to those nitrogen nutrients. So products could include the species of bacteria like Azotobacter or Azospira. Second, if you want your plants to have more access to water, by extending your root ridge, you may be able to find a product containing mycorrhizal fungi because it's going to extend your root system to get a further ridge in the soil. But if you want to increase your fertilizer efficiency and your plant absorption of the mineral nutrients in the soil, the seaweed extract, I believe a lot of you may have heard this, is one of the most commonly seen products of biostimulants on the market. And also say, okay, I want to use biostimulant as a soil conditioner to improve my soil condition or other properties. Then you may be able to find products containing humic acid. And lastly, if you want to improve your crop abiotic tolerance, such as drought tolerance, you may have multiple choices from humic acids to the bacteria containing biostimulants. Secondly, your product label is very important because the label should tell you the product function and active ingredients. When you get a product, you try to look for the keywords contained in the label because those keywords may give you the hint about the product function and then how you can use those products accordingly. The keywords may include growth promotion, nutrient acquisition, soil structural improvement, drought tolerance, and fertilizer use efficiency, etc. And then once, for example, once you have like two products or multiple products, you're going to look at the information contained in the label. The more detailed, the better. For example, the one on the left, the label says the product contains 6 species of mycorrhizal fungi and 5 species of beneficial nitrogen-fixing bacteria. And the function of the product is to help a plant use less water and with nitrogen supply or acquisition. So you'll feel very comfortable to use this product with this label. On the other hand, if you have a product saying this product contains microorganisms that can enhance crop production, then you may feel, I may have a lot of question marks in my mind, like how this products will work. And if I use this product, will that improve my crop production? Number 3, your to-be selected products should match your production system, which means it is the feasibility and the doability in the field. For example, if you are a large-scale vegetable growers, that you contract your transplant with a nursery, and then the nursery will transport or ship the plants to the field directly for you to transplant. Then you are using a biostimulant saying the best application way is the trace soaking or the root ball soaking or root ball bath. That will make you very difficult to do that in the field because you have so many trays, so many plants. It will a big consumption of your time. But on the other hand, if you are a small scale farmer, or even you produce transplants by yourself, this application contained for this product might be very doable compared if you are a large scale grower. For another example, say my irrigation system is from flooding or by using the furrow irrigation. Well, if my product says the best way to deliver the products to the field is through drip irrigation system, then it will be very difficult for me to use this product. Instead, I can find products that could be applied with foliar application as a spray, which means it's highly doable in the field. Number 4, not all vegetables welcome all biostimulants. There is so-called crop specificity or incompatibility. So here I put 2 examples with the microorganisms, and I believe many of you know this. So the number 1 is this rhizobia and the legumes. They will form the symbiotic association of nitrogen fixation. And then the second one is the mycorrhizal fungi. As this figure shows, the mycorrhizal attached on plant roots and extended the ridge to the nutrient and the resources in the soil. But not all vegetable crops will form the symbiotic association with mycorrhizal fungi. For example, brassicas. That means if you grow broccoli, cabbage, or cauliflower, when you are using biostimulants, you really have to be careful when you are selecting mycorrhizal fungi, because you may have a symbiotic incompatibility of your crop and the microbes you're using. But there are some research now undergoing to study if there is any possibility of colonization of mycorrhizal fungi on non-host brassica species. But before there are solid practical information and are approved, we still need to pay attention to product crop mismatch or this incompatibility. Lastly, if you know some general product modes of action or so-called science behind the products, this can really help you with product selection. And also, it will drive you to ask the correct questions to the research and the development personnel or the industry. For example, I put an example here. Not all nitrogen-fixing bacteria are rhizobia. There are tons of free-living nitrogen-fixing bacteria in the soil that can attach to other crops and the vegetables. They could utilize the nitrogen gas in the atmosphere and transform into nitrogen nutrient for plant uptake. So the most well-known species is called Azotobacter. It is a very typical species. So once you see the products contain this species, even you don't see the function in the label, you know it is very likely for nitrogen fixation. Another example I want to share here also relates to bacteria. If you see a product claims to improve crop abiotic stress tolerance, such as drought, by the anthraline inhibiting bacteria, then the pathway on the left dictates how it works. Of course, you don't have to memorize the pathway, but you know it is something the bacteria do to the plants by stopping the production of anthraline, which is a plant hormone that is largely secreted by plants under stress. For this function, the most common bacteria species is called Pseudomonas, which is here. So when you see this active ingredient, you know the mitigation of stress is possibly one of the main functions for this product. Okay, now let's test ourselves to see if we can help with somebody on product selection. For example, here is a scenario question. An organic grower from Woodland, California, plans to reduce the application of nitrogen fertilizer while hoping to maintain the yield of his 50-acre broccolis. He contracts with greenhouse to produce transplants and uses surface strip tapes placed above the raised beds. So now he plans to use crop biostimulant. Which one would be the most suitable choice? So here are 4 choices with 4 different product names, but I want to point out that these names were created by me. It has nothing related to any products on the market. So A, plant enhancer containing rhizobia with foliar application and root drenching. B, root fortify containing humic acids with soil drenching. C, veggie nutrient containing azotobacters with irrigation injection. And D, crop mycor containing mycorrhizal fungi with the application of both foliar spray and irrigation injection. So I think you now should be able to get the answer, and it should not be that difficult. And the correct answer is C. Why? So you need to extract the key information from the statement. Number 1 is broccoli. It means we may not be able to select the products containing mycorrhizal fungi. The second part of key information is the grower contracts with greenhouse to produce the broccoli transplants. It means we may not be able to do root drenching or root soaking. And at last, the goal of the grower is to reduce nitrogen fertilizer use, and also the grower used surface drip irrigation, which bring us to the answer of using a nitrogen-fixing bacteria and applied via injecting to drip tapes. That's why we came to the answer C. So from this kind of information, you may get a better idea on how to select a product. Now let's shift the gear toward product application. But it actually interrelates to product selection, as we described earlier, because the best delivery application system hinges on your product active ingredients. So here there are a few ways of applying the biostimulants, like tray soaking, especially if you just sow the seeds and you want the biostimulant active ingredients to have a close contact with the seeds, which is also applying to the seed inoculation. And then we have the ways of foliar application. That's the way that you want the plant to have a rapid absorption of those biostimulants. And of course, we know the soil drenching and the pumping through the drip system is to apply or deliver the active ingredients right to the soil or to the root zone. So overall, the goal of a good application method is for the rapid colonization or absorption of the active ingredients of biostimulants by the plants, and also to prevent the loss of the products, especially under extreme weathers. Like here in the Central Valley, we try to apply biostimulants in the midday because it's very hot. We need to apply that in the early morning or after sunset. There may be, actually, when you get a product, there may be multiple ways of delivering the active ingredients to where they will confer their efficacy. But there are some rule of thumbs that you may want to follow when you apply the biostimulants. Like the microbe-containing biostimulants are usually should be directly to the root zone for colonization. So the soil drenching, root soaking, and apply through drip irrigation will be the optimal application methods. On the other hand, the seaweed extract should be more commonly absorbed by the plant leaves. So foliar application, which will require less work to prepare, but we need to really keep an eye on the weather, because the hottest period of the day. And then for humic substance containing biostimulant, they usually function as a soil structure enhancer. The drenching would usually select it as the optimal application way. For protein hydrolysate or amino acid containing products, those could be applied through foliar spray for a quick absorption. And also, you probably have the experience. When you take a biostimulant and look at the label, most biostimulants require reapplication during the season. Next is when you apply biostimulants, compatibility with other agricultural inputs is very important. But the good thing here is it is less an issue in organic system than conventional. And actually, the biostimulant in organic system is compatible with most advanced organic farming techniques. For example, the nutrient management and the integrated pest management. Biostimulant is often incorporated with the use of cover crops, compost, and the manure amendments, and also with the biocontrol agents to form a due protection of plant health and supply with the nutrient acquisition. Overall, it is also compatible with sustainable farming practices, such as reduced or zero tillage in organic vegetable production, which will form an additive effect. And definitely when you prepare the application and store the products after application, or once the cap is open, you need to pay attention to the expiration date and the storage condition. Usually you should store biostimulants in dark, dry, with consistent and moderate temperature. And if your biostimulant contains living microorganisms, you should avoid direct sunlight and extreme heat. Okay, now after we select the right product and apply the product with the most effective way, we now will observe the effects on plant growth or production or product evaluation. So first of all, you may have heard many times when you ask if the product improves my crop growth, and the answer is it depends. We may be spoiled too much to say it depends, but the fact is the application of biostimulant is kind of unlikely to result in dramatic, rapid change to your productivity, which means time plays a role. But why? So this is because the active ingredients you added to plants, soil, or absorbed by plants will have to compete with the existing environment. This environment could be soil or inside plant body. For example, the microorganisms in biostimulants, when they are applied to the soil, they will first reproduce and then compete with other organisms in the soil to be attracted by the root. So the dose added to the soil is not the most critical, but the critical question is how many of them will be able to reproduce and enlarge their community for massive root colonization. So for field with less disturbance and using sustainable farming practices, the active ingredients added to the soil may take less time to bring the effects on crop growth and productivity. However, for fields received aggressive practices, such as pesticide application, aggressive tillage, this process may take much longer. Well, many people may complain that, okay, we don't see yield increase after the use of biostimulants. Well, I would like to remind that you may miss the period of crop development and growth, as well as fruit quality improvement, as the effects of biostimulant may not always first lead to a yield increase. For example, you may witness a higher growth rate after the use of biostimulants, where the plants will have a better stress tolerance during the growth. Or you may find, oh, the plants has an earlier readiness for the next stage, which means is a shortening of time for a certain growth period. And you may also see a better fruit quality, even though your yield is comparable. You may see the year of a sweet corn is bigger and a better quality of a watermelon. And the next is I want to introduce a theory. This is a theory of stress. This is emerge a lot of times when we talk about biostimulants. The appearance of biostimulant effects may only emerge under the presence of a stress. So this is called the theory of stress. It's kind of widely recognized and also reflects the role of biostimulant, specifically in organic vegetable production, which is to compensate for a factor that limits crop growth and reaches a comparable results to the normal condition without using biostimulants. And in other words, this is to convert so-called weak condition to a normalcy or slow the weak condition becoming worse. The stress could be low fertility, like nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus, or a weak soil physical condition, or a limited water supply. Well, tremendous amount of research experiments usually came to a study result that the reduced application of fertility plus the application of products will bring to an equivalent level of the full intensity of fertilization, regardless of using products. So this also showcase the role of biostimulant in crop production. So overall, a positive response of plant to biostimulants is probably attributed to three things. One is the presence of a growth limiting factor or factors. Two is the formation of a positive relationship between biostimulants and the target crops, which is what we mentioned about the compatibility, and also the compatibility with other farming activities and agricultural inputs. So at the end of the talk, I hope you are feeling more confident when dealing with biostimulants and are not besieged by the overwhelming number of biostimulant products on the market. But I know there may be still quite a lot of questions. So moving forward, you should know your field situation, your production practices, and know the product as much as possible. Please get involved when chances are there. You can involve by participating in the evaluation trials, listen to lectures, and observe what others share while sharing your personal experience with biostimulants. And please also do speak up for tough questions when necessary. And try making adjustment and leave yourself some room for plans B or even plan C. And at last, we should try educating and influencing more people about what you learned regarding biostimulants. And meanwhile, be prepared to be educated. So the last two slides at the end of this talk, I like to share two resources. The first one is the recordings of the 2020 UCC Biologics educational webinars on our YouTube channel. You can type Biologics educational webinar in the YouTube search bar. There are currently 4 presentations, and I believe you'll get some useful information from these 4 talks. The second resource I want to share is my UCC Biostimulant blog. This is a venue of sharing our evaluation trials and other key announcements. It is also a place to share our experience with biostimulants. So I welcome you to share your voice, your experience, and communicate with others on this platform. Okay, I'm done with my talk, and thanks for your patience. I hope this one will help with your future use of biostimulants.